Booknerds. Welcome to another awesome session. And I know it's a weekend, and we started with the weekend with, an awesome author, and we are ending it now with another one of our favorites, um, Sachin Garg. He's back on the podcast. I shouldn't say back on the podcast because the previous session we had with you was a half virtual kind of session, which was like 2000, I don't know when,
Oh man,
16.
I
Yes.
feel like 5, 6 years back at least.
Oh, yes, yes. And
Way before Zoom times.
oh, yes, it was a hybrid sort of session, and we were there discussing the book, and you were with us on Google Meet or something, whatever it was called back
Google
then.
Meet. Google Meet.
Yes, so those were the times. But now, first of all, welcome to the podcast. It is great to have you back.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ron, for having me. And I just want to say it's been great to see your journey, the Booknerds journey, having met you and having seen the community grown so much over the years. And I want to just say you're doing great work cultivating this community of book readers and book lovers. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a mutual admiration society here. We haven't really paid him to say anything. And, we have been, kind of, bumping into each other at weird places, of all places, like outside JLF sometimes.
Oh, yeah, man.
If you remember that, it was weird.
Oh,
But,
man, yeah.
we met. Anyways, so why we are here? We are here to discuss this book, Hindu Refugee Camp, Lahore. I know, looking at the, cover, everybody must be wondering, like, why has Sachin written this? I mean, because of those of you who missed this one, right at the back you see an yellowish orange book. We Need a Revolution, it's called. And so what Sachin did was he started with, romantic, popcorn kind of, books. And back in the day, when was it started? Grapevine?
Grapevine started 2011, but I was already writing books before that as well.
Great. So you started with those books, and of course we all love them. But then you suddenly did a sort of Anubhav Sinha on us, but and kind of taking up issues and writing in a completely different direction. And by the way, those of you who are not aware about his life right now, he is also a meme maker, and he has not mentioned that in the book in the bio. So I am mentioning it. More than that, of course, a best-selling author, popular speaker, serial entrepreneur. You have, featured on many platforms, written for Scroll.in, Huffington Post, and whatnot, and spoken at IITs, IIMs. The list goes on. You have been doing a lot of stuff. They say that you have one life. Why not try everything out? And you have been doing that. Congratulations on all of that. Of course, I'm sure that if I'm not wrong, you are from DC?
Yes. Now did you?
Oh, wow. Great. So
Yeah.
you have a technical background. What's happening, Sachin? And first of all, tell us about this book, because, I was quite moved and disturbed at the same time, in a weird way, entertained throughout the book. So tell us first about this book, and then we'll go on to other things.
I just address one point you made about what I do.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that I've been just multitasking all throughout. I quit my job in 2011, my corporate job, and started Grapevine.
Yeah.
And I've been experimenting so much. I think there's like barely any art form that I've not dabbled in and tried my hand at. Some for a few days, some for a few weeks, some for a few months. But I've dabbled at pretty much everything you can think of.
I remember stand-up comedy.
Stand-up comedy, spoken word poetry. I made a short film which did pretty well on YouTube. I've tried all kinds.
The Tinder love story.
Tinder,
if I'm not wrong, the name of the.
I've written and directed plays as well.
Yeah.
And somewhere in my mailbox, there's a web series that I've written, which I'm trying to sell to some production house.
Okay.
So I've experimented a lot, to the point that I reached a point that I said that I need to stop experimenting and focus. One life sounds like a lot, but like at some point, the life also has to focus. If you're able to crack one art form in one life,
right,
that's also not bad. So I
mean, that's something we can argue about. I mean, a lot, and it's a debate always. But I mean, whatever you have done, it has been of a very good quality. So who is complaining. Anyways,
Yeah,
I'm not here to
yeah.
just praise you. I'm not here to just praise you. I'm going to
I'm
ask you some questions which were bothering me, of course, after reading the book. First of all, let's talk about Ghulam Ali and Zahira. You know, and the format of the book is letters, and you have. I know that you have deliberately, kind of. I shouldn't say dumbed it down, but you have kind of, kept the language simple. Uh, because of the letter format, why did you choose that format, first of all? So tell us more about that, because I know that you are capable of making it more lyrical and, more sort of, I don't know, cinematic.
See, the whole of the book is in first person.
Yeah.
There are two narrators in the
Yeah.
book. One is a guy called Ghulam Ali,
Yeah.
and Ghulam Ali in the book he's a Havaldaar in the army,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And he's not very educated. He's like a sadak ka loafer kind of a
Right,
guy,
right.
the lack of a better word.
Yeah.
So almost like 70% of the book is in his voice.
Yeah.
So, and he's writing letters to his lover, his beloved.
Right.
So the book is in his voice. So
Yeah.
I just didn't imagine him as somebody who will be very crafty with his writing, and he use lyrical language and all.
Yeah.
So when you read the book, it's not my voice. It's my interpretation of Ghulam Ali's voice and Zahira Raza's voice.
Yeah.
Zahira is a little more educated, but then she's writing to Ghulam Ali,
Right.
and she's kind of writing a letter for a specific purpose each time.
Right.
So the language just had to be simple in this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to be honest, Mirko, I think it comes naturally to me as well. I think it's more of my comfort zone.
I know. I meant that, you could have easily, kind of made it complicated, because there was scope there. I could see it, but great that you didn't, because it's kind of, letters are not like that, are not supposed to be like that.
Writing a book in letters is a very challenging thing for several reasons. So, like for example, your point of view is limited to the point of view of the writer of the letter. True. Your voice is limited to the voice of the writer. And sometimes what happens is that, suppose I'm writing a letter to you and I know you really well.
Yeah.
So there are things that both you and I know.
Yes.
But the reader doesn't know.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So suppose I have to tell that Rohan and I met for the first time in 2016 in such and such situation.
Yeah.
So if I'm telling you, you already know that information.
Right.
How do I say it in a way that reader gets to know that, okay, they met this way? And also I don't sound like an idiot that why am I telling you things that you already know?
Yeah, true. It's complicated. It's not that simple, because, it seems quite innocuous at first. I mean, ठीक है, letter wala format hai, but it gets to you, because most of the books out there are descriptive. I mean, they create a scene, kind of delve into it, but this format is completely, sort of different, and there is nostalgia to it. That I would agree totally.
So, for example, just to give you one more example. So, like it became very difficult to give backstory because of the format of the letters. How do I, like, if I'm telling you, how do I relive that we met in such and such situation, because you're already aware? Why would I repeat? Right. So the trick I used is that Ghulam Ali says that a person came to write an article about me. Oh yeah. And then he shares the article, which has all the backstory, that how did he land in this situation and what all happened. So that's the trick I used, because there was just no way of conveying all that information to the reader without sounding like an idiot. No, I completely understood that part, and I have a question on that, about that. Okay. I'm sorry. I pulled it in the conversation. One question come ho gaya. Cool. Doesn't matter. Anyways, so on page 21, you have written that there are two types of people in this refugee camp. The first type is the people who have lost all hope in life. These are people whose faces tell their autobiographies, filled with years of being displaced and marginalized. One look at them and you could imagine stories of their families being murdered during the partition, home being overtaken by someone and running away from violence with nothing but the clothes they were wearing. These are people who are still reeling from the shock of the event that was the splitting of a country.
and haven't recovered in any way and have chosen to live as its memorial. I mean, I believe that
It's
you
so good.
haven't.
It's just so good to hear you read these lines, Rohan.
I mean,
It's
deep. It's deep, and there are so
yeah.
many stories that have been, depicted on screen and in books. There are a lot of writers who have just been, kind of writing about partition, and it sums, all of it sums up to this, because you haven't been to a refugee camp. I mean,
Maybe I have.
I mean, at least I'm hoping
Some
you
would
have
say,
not.
some would say that parts of Delhi are still refugee camps because they came to life when refugees from
Yeah.
Pakistan moved to Delhi and they became colonies.
Yeah. So all that is showing up here. But what is the significance of this part? Because this, I mean, it was kind of, you can call it on a highway. This was a milestone for me, the first, sort of milestone in the book. So that's why I wanted to ask you about this one.
See, I'll tell you what, the thing is, I keep coming back to the point of view factor.
Yeah.
We are seeing the refugee camp from the point of view of Ghulam Ali.
Right.
And he might be somebody who doesn't look at hardship.
Yeah.
Right. When he's talking to Zahira, he's trying to portray that he's okay. He's not having a hard time.
Right.
And because of that, he talks more about the events of his life.
Right.
And throughout the book, he doesn't really talk about the hardship and the difficulties of other people living in the refugee camp.
Right.
So I just wanted to dedicate some lines and paragraphs, just drawing that image in your head कि हम उसकी बात नहीं कर रहे हैं, but इस refugee camp में लोगों की काफी बुरी हालत भी है. We are talking about another guy called Rajkumar, who is a main character in the book.
Yes.
जो मस्त कर रहा है, खुश रहता है, refugee camp में उसको कपड़े तक नहीं धोता है, गंदगी में पड़ा रहता है, but खुश रहता है.
Right.
So that might mislead you to think कि इस refugee camp में तो खुश लोग रहते हैं.
Right.
But these paragraphs are कि आपको ऐसा लग सकता है, but at the back of it all, there's a lot of hardship. There's a lot of pain that is at the back of people's minds. But we are maybe showing you maybe a little happier side of it, but that's not the whole picture.
Yes, it could have gotten much darker, but I'm happy that you didn't do it, because the story should go across, and sometimes people get repelled by certain things. I wouldn't say that you haven't shown, but you have kind of took a step back and not really scare people away. So I'm happy.
Yeah, like when people hear that you're writing a book about the partition, तो उनको लगता है हाँ riot हो रहा होगा, हिंदू मुस्लिम आपस में एक दूसरे की जान के पीछे पड़े होंगे.
वो सबने ट्रेन टू पाकिस्तान पढ़ी है ना actually. That's why they're scared, because तो पहले ही 10-15 पेज में इतना वो हो जाता है कि
इतना violence हो जाता है. And even in my book, the first chapter is a little saddish kind of a chapter.
Yeah.
But second chapter में there's just such a different flavor.
Yes.
कि वो ज़ाहिरा लिखना शुरू करती है, and she's like a very happy character, very positive and all that.
Right.
तो मतलब लोग पहला चैप्टर भी पढ़ते हैं तो they're like नहीं ये तो sad book होने वाली है, but वो second chapter पढ़ते हैं तो they're like अरे ये तो बिल्कुल ही अलग है.
It's much more than that. It's much more than that, and I was surprised the kind of tangents I'm going to, because it's about art also. I mean, you have depicted art in many ways, and not only in a single way, and that would stem from you being an artist in multiple ways. So first of all, tell us about this guy, Ghulam Ali, is a limb fitter. And this is a true story. And not many know about this. I had to go back to Google Baba to research, and I didn't find
almost much. There's almost nothing written about it. In fact,
so tell us tell everyone about this, because they would love to know.
Let me tell you how I came to write this story, how I came across this story, and how the book happened.
Yeah.
Okay. So I do not come from a family which was affected by the partition.
Yeah.
Okay. I did not have any connection to the partition or any particular thoughts on that subject until one day I got a call from a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And he just called and said कि Pakistan चलेगा. And normally he just called me one day and said Pakistan chalega. And normally
you said yes, I'll go.
Yeah, so I was like, I don't know what he's up to. So I just said chalega. And the next thing I know is that there's somebody ringing my bell at my home and saying कि sir अपना passport दे दो, हम Pakistani High Commission से हैं, we'll get you the visa.
Wow. Wow.
So basically, there was a conference in Pakistan where he
Right.
had appointed me a speaker there.
This South Asia Media Summit, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
I've written it in my bio as well.
Yeah.
So he took me as a speaker there.
Which year is this? Which year is this?
It was a while back.
Okay.
It was
Okay.
2013.
2013, but it's fine. ज़्यादा भी पुराना नहीं है. It's fine.
Yeah, it was the pre-Modi era, significantly.
That's why you were granted a visa, possibly.
It's honestly a little harder to get a visa in today's time.
I know.
It actually is.
I have some friends in the US who really want to come here, but they can't. Anyways.
Okay. So when I went to Pakistan, I met a lot of people and I was really treated really well. They were really hospitable towards me and the whole delegation.
Yeah.
And even outside, like I was with an important delegation, but even outside where people didn't know who I am, I would just tell them I'm from India.
Okay.
And I'll just get like a VIP treatment from them. And
you said
they
a
were
VIP
like,
treatment, is it?
Yeah. People will be like, we can't take money from you. And
wow.
Some of them will have a little uncomfortable questions as well.
What
like one of them will ask me that कि Arnab Goswami को problem क्या
है? Goodness. So you are the representative there and you have to answer all the questions.
He was, even back in 2013, it sounds like a lifetime back, but even then he was already recognized. I'm sure today he evokes even stronger emotions in Pakistan. But even
I don't know
back
what
then,
kind of questions would come up now, but although
things would not be as pleasant now as
True.
they were back then with
True.
social media and all, and videos circulating on WhatsApp and all.
Yes.
I have friends in Pakistan that I stayed in touch with, and things are not as like you can't just walk around the market telling people I'm from India.
Right.
If you go today.
So things have changed then. Yeah.
I mean, like I got no negative reactions back in 2013.
Yeah.
Today, if you go, so you might get like 1 in 10 people might say that, okay, why have you come? Like I had one awkward conversation where somebody said ki when somebody comes from India to Pakistan, so we treat them with so much love and care and we give them so much hospitality. But when Pakistanis come to India, they are treated really badly. And
I don't think so. I mean, an odd opinion perhaps, but
no, they are. I have friends who came here and they have to kind of not tell everybody that they're from Pakistan because people can. Although, like in educated circles, people are mostly nice, but suppose like on the road if they tell somebody, so they could have some reactions.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the whole point is that I went to Pakistan and then this seed was sown in my head. Yeah. And that kind of became a reason that I went on to write that short film that we talked about.
Right.
It's called Tinder Ek Prem Katha.
Yes.
And like many of my works, it's titled very frivolously. Tinder Ek Prem Katha. Naam sun ke lagta hai kya time pass ho gaya, but I would like to believe it has a point in the end. It says something in the end.
Right.
If you watch it till the end.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that came out of my trip to Pakistan. And then one fine day I was in Lucknow for Lucknow Lit Fest.
Yeah.
And I walked into this live performance of Dastan Goi.
Yeah.
You understand Dastan Goi?
Lucknow is second home.
Yeah.
Yes. So I know Himanshu Bajpayee and everyone.
Himanshu Bajpayee was the performer actually with Ankit Chadda.
Yes. He's no more, right? He's no more. He's no more, but a great, art form.
Yeah, Ankit and Himanshu were performing. It was called Dastan Taqsim-e-Hind.
Yeah.
Dastan of Partition of India.
Yeah.
And one of the stories in that performance was of Havaldaar Ghulam Ali Limb-Fitter.
Yeah.
That's when I heard the story. They must have done like 15, 16 stories around the partition of India.
Yeah.
Each around 5-6 minutes. But this story just got stuck in my head. Yeah. This was 2016, some 5 years back.
Yeah.
And that story just stayed in my head. Like you, I also Googled and researched, but I just went a step further as well. I got in touch with some partition scholars and asked them that where can I research more?
Right.
That's when I came across more literature on Ghulam Ali, and which I researched, went through. And then I kind of added my own universe to it, my own characters to it.
Right.
Researched some more about the partition in general and put together this book, which is now out and everybody should read.
Oh, yes. And I, immediately messaged you when I, came across the limb fitting thing. I was like, because in the beginning I was like repelled. I mean, I would agree. I suddenly thought that why, and I don't know what is coming up, what will happen, because, the direction it was taking, I was like worried. But, it was done very tastefully. So congratulations on that. So I, did not get repelled by the entire concept, although I shouldn't, but we are brought up in such a way that we eventually are, there is taboo around so many things. And
yeah, and limb fitting is like a central plot point in the book.
yes,
it's not just something he's doing, it's the whole,
yes.
it's a very strong backbone of the book.
So let's give everyone a sort of background on Ghulam Ali, because suddenly, even in the book you explain it later. um, how did he become a limb fitter? A little bit on that, and then we'll go on to other things.
Okay, I hope it doesn't come across as a spoiler, but okay, let me try. So Ghulam Ali is a harami. Okay, so his father had just abandoned him and his mother.
Yeah.
And growing up, he was somebody who wasn't really respected or wasn't really loved by his peers.
Yeah.
And he had always wanted to be respected or be good at something.
Yeah.
And one thing he came to realize, and his mother is a chicken curry karigar.
Yeah.
And she is somebody who's like really good with her hands. She's like a craftswoman, and the booty of her chicken is like famous in the whole of Lucknow.
Right.
That's how skilled she is. So the having crafty hands is something that runs in his blood, but at the same time he doesn't want to be a chicken curry karigar.
Yes.
So he's faced with that question that if not this, then what?
Yeah.
And then he's also lured by the army uniform and how
right.
girls around him will look at him with respect if he wears the army uniform.
Yes.
That's when he comes across this course for limb fitting in Britannia. And he just jumps into that opportunity and does the course very sincerely and becomes a limb fitter.
Wow, that is, I mean, that line itself is quite out of the box, and nobody would have, figured ki, the central character protagonist would be this person.
See, in the real story, like Ghulam Ali was somebody, he really looked at himself as a very skilled limb fitter. So that's a very important piece of the true story of Ghulam Ali, that like there was a point that he actually had a chance of coming back to India from Pakistan.
Right.
But he had to give up the profession of limb fitter. And he said, no, I will not.
Okay.
I will rather just be in Pakistan, but I will not give up my profession. I want to be a limb fitter in the army. I've not used that in the book because it was just not working.
Yes, I mean, we won't say much about this because otherwise, it will be all spoilers. But you guys, you have to read it and figure it out yourself. Although Sachin has taken several liberties with the original story, but they were needed. I mean, there has to be.
I wouldn't say liberties, but I've added a lot of my stuff to the story. Yeah. But I've not changed any facts. Obviously, the facts are absolutely in place.
Yes, but you feel for the protagonist. I mean, to be honest, you feel for him, and the universe that you have created. It's pretty interesting. So there are, you have touched upon the sort of taboo of tawaifs and the performance arts, if I can say. And tell us more, because right now it's a taboo, but historically, I mean, in other historical fiction also, I've come across that this wasn't, and actually it was pretty decently respected. And the kind of stereotype that has been created over a period of time and decades. So what's going on there? I mean,
see, the tawaif, a lot has been written, and even in cinema, a lot has been made on the culture of tawaif.
Yeah.
But I just thought there was this one particular aspect of the tawaif culture which is not depicted enough.
Yeah.
And because my book is based in the 1950s, it just made for the right timing in terms of like the way history has evolved.
Right.
So it was the right timing as well. So point I was making is we either look at tawaifs as like these very glamorous courtesans, which they were in the 19th century. The kothas would be really lavish.
Yeah.
The jhumar in the kotha will be really posh.
Yeah.
The silkiest curtains and the highest nawabs would actually come to
Yes.
the kotha.
Yeah.
And where did this culture disappear? Where did it go?
Yeah.
And the answer to that is that the Britishers actually went out of their way to denigrate these kothas
Right.
into little brothels.
Yeah.
And branded these respected and very well-educated tawais into lowly prostitutes.
Right.
So we see that we either see the zenith of the kotha culture or we see brothels and prostitutes. We don't see a connection between the two.
Right.
So I was trying to do something that there is this tawaif who has this past, this glorious past, and how she's holding a grudge because of the glorious past. What has been her transition from the zenith to this current situation and how she's fighting for that.
Yeah.
That's an emotion which I feel like nobody's captured. The idea is to say something which has not already been said.
Right.
And that's what I'm trying to capture through this Surayya's character, which is there in the book.
Yeah. So I read somewhere, I think in your bio or somewhere, that you are an atheist, right?
Oh man, where have I written this?
I think you have written it somewhere.
It's true, but I don't mention it that often.
You don't, you just to be safe, you don't do it. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't mention it that often, but it's true.
It's fine. I mean, all of us have gone through it, some are atheists.
Please do tell me where have I written this. I should.
I'll tell you exactly. It's at the back of the book, and you have mentioned it in, I think so, in the acknowledgement or something. I read it. So I wanted to ask a question on that because I found it, so I have to. So writing a book which has got so much of kind of, religion going on, as an atheist, how does one do that? Because some would argue that you don't understand religions at all.
I would say that I do struggle to connect with the emotions behind religion a lot of times. I think that is true. Like, for example, again, I go back to my trip to Pakistan. So this same exact conversation came up then.
Yeah.
So I said, and I was sitting with 4 or 5 Pakistani men.
Yeah.
And I told them that I'm an atheist.
Yeah.
So उनका reaction ऐसा था कि अरे ये क्या? They were just completely, they couldn't process the concept of atheism.
Right.
They were like, how is this possible? So what do you think? Where did we come from? Where did the universe come from?
Yes.
Still Hindus का चलो कुछ तो concept होता होगा, but how do you make sense of the world if you're an atheist?
Right.
For them, it was a big revelation कि दुनिया में atheist भी होते हैं for real. Like जैसे कोई उनके सामने कोई alien आ गया है कि.
Yes.
So that was the first time I realized that, okay, I am a little unique.
Yes, no, I realized, I had a Chinese roommate and I asked him what religion do you follow, So, and he was I don't. And I was like, what? And, my reaction was similar to those Pakistanis. I was like, what's going on in your life? What are you doing? How do you get motivated to get up every day, work? How are you motivated for life? And, then I realized that I'm not, quite away from the entire concept. I might be agnostic or bordering atheism. So, that's a huge, kind of discussion, but that's for another podcast. But my question was that how would you be, how would you answer this, that you would be able to do justice in a book like this to the Hindus and to the Muslims? That's what my question was.
I did speak to a lot of people. I spoke to a lot of Hindus and Muslims about. In fact, I spoke a lot to Muslims because I think almost every protagonist is Muslim apart from Rajkumar.
Yes.
So I did speak to a lot of Muslims about how they look at religion, how they look at death, how they look at a higher power.
Yeah.
And there were differences which you wouldn't expect normally.
Yeah.
So, if to give you an example, कि जैसे कुछ बुरा होता है, okay, I'm blanking out on it, on small things that you
We can always
the way,
come back to it. We can always come back to it.
I mean, you justify some things to yourself, saying
Okay.
maybe God thought this or that. The way Hindus process that, or the way Muslims process that, is quite different.
Yeah.
So those kind of nuances. In fact, I did make like several of my Muslim friends read the book just for that sensitivity check.
Yes.
That कहीं मुस्लिम का जो वर्ल्ड व्यू होता है उसको मैंने कॉन्ट्रडिक्ट तो नहीं कर दिया है. So that's another.
That's a good thing that you did, because having beta readers of all religions would have kind of given, a balanced view.
Yeah, and they did point out some places where
Okay.
they were like, this is not how we process. This is not according to our worldview.
That's super interesting, actually. I have never looked at a story from that viewpoint. Also, you have touched upon, on page 107, you have touched upon, the Naani was very interesting for me. Midway into the book, I was like, okay, I'm, beginning to kind of like her. I don't know what is she, pointing to in the entire plot, but I am loving her anyways. So so you mentioned, can you tell me more about her? It is interesting how we forget that our elders are also people who have had life experiences when they were younger. What was she like when you were younger? So the background is that Nani is an acerbic person. That is the background. But suddenly, midway into the book, there's an evolution. So what was the entire, point of kind of her voice? Why did you keep it in the book? Because she could have not been there, and
यार एक पता नहीं, मेरे when I started this book ना, तो मेरा बस एक राइटर का मन होता है, तो मेरा भी एक मन था कि I just wanted to create a character जो जब भी मुंह खोले तो जहर उगले.
Oh wow! Wow!
Whenever she opens her mouth, she just spews venom.
Oh yes.
She would look at you and she will just identify your deepest insecurities and just say to your face कि तू तो ये है, तू तो वो है, तूने तो ये, तेरे बस की नहीं है कुछ.
Wow.
So she's just that character कि बस मैं जहर घोलने आई हूँ.
Goodness, that's an interesting one, actually, because I thought that it might have a purpose, but okay. Shweta is
she's also.
Shweta is asking, how difficult is it to write on this sensitive topic? It is a sensitive topic.
See, I didn't let myself be guided. Like I let myself be guided by the story and the character and the plot.
Yeah.
And if your character is honest and if he's kind of not somebody with like any twisted motivation or anything.
Yeah.
So the message of the story will kind of take care of itself.
Yeah.
I did not deliberately try to portray anybody as positive, negative. Like I didn't try to portray India or Pakistan in a good or bad manner, bad light. Yeah. I didn't try to portray any religion in a good or bad light.
Yeah.
So there is this one-liner story that there is this Muslim Indian guy stuck in Pakistan, trying to come back to India.
Yeah.
Will he be able to? Will he be not? And he starts writing letters to his beloved in Lucknow.
Yeah.
This is a one-liner of the story.
Yeah.
So wherever the story will take me, I will go. Whatever is requires to be said for the purpose of this story, I will say. And not really get into bother about what is the messaging or the ulterior arc, ulterior theme that is being conveyed. So I just let the story guide myself.
I can't argue with that, because it might create a bias which would be counterproductive. Of course, I mean, you have been dabbling into so many things. The writer, you are making memes, and on the other hand you are writing novels. What's going on? How difficult is it to kind of create a different mind space? Because I know that you are into multitasking, but of course it's like miles apart. You're doing research on partition and all of that, and then creating a meme on Disha Patani. I mean, come on. It's it's a difference. It's
See, I was always addicted to Twitter and addicted to memes as well.
Yeah.
So in 2019, I just said that instead of doing it as time pass, let me do it properly. So
and
I just
wow,
said,
did you do a great job. I really wanted to avoid this in this conversation, but
yeah,
we
it's
have
very
to talk about
off topic.
we have to talk about it. Because it is so I mean, it shows that writers, I mean, who have written 7 books can be more than that. I mean, it's a shorter form of writing if you look at it.
Yeah, and I think it was 2019 that I tweeted that some people use YouTube as a babysitter. Okay, Desi culture is using YouTube as a babysitter.
Okay.
So I tweeted it and I posted it on Instagram as well. And on Instagram, it kind of got 200 likes, which was huge for me at that time. So I just said, okay, maybe I should do it more often. Twitter pe to traction aane na, maybe Instagram pe.
Yes.
And within like 2-3 months, I was getting like 5,000 likes on each of my posts on Instagram. Wow. And I used to post.
I've been following you since like a long time. I was like, Sachin,
is it the same guy?
Yeah, is it the same guy? I just checked, double checked. So I was like, okay, there is an evolution right there.
In fact, one of the reactions I recently got was, one girl saw me, like she used to follow me for my tweets, for my memes.
Yeah.
And she saw my new book and she was like, अरे इसका नाम भी सचिन गर्ग है, मैंने बहुत पहले भी एक ऑथर की बुक पढ़ी थी, उसका नाम भी सचिन गर्ग था.
Oh my God.
So the thought that came to her mind was कि सचिन गर्ग नाम के 2 ऑथर हैं.
Yeah.
So I was like, you could process that they are the same guy.
Obviously, nobody would be able to. You have to.
अरे पूरा, she remembered the whole name Sachin Garg, and she could do 2 + 2 कि ये author और वो author are the same guy, because it's just so different.
You have to be careful about this, because you're the writer side of you, it's I mean, it's such a big difference, so people will get confused. Come on, it's fair enough, they can do that. Anyway, so I just wanted to touch upon this because it has created an audience for you. And mind you, I know that people who consume memes are super intelligent. I am of the opinion, at least they understand the
intelligent होते हैं, पर attention span नहीं होता.
Obviously. So you are offering this book to them also in some ways. So let's see what happens. Of course, their reactions will come in over a period of time. And okay, are you getting time to read at all, or you are just involved with making content?
I'm going through a very busy phase. I've taken up a lot of work.
Okay.
So no reading, very little writing also, honestly.
Okay.
So 2020 was very chill for me. I was just sitting and chilling throughout 2020.
Yes. My final question, actually, before I forget, you have mentioned that, this book you were happy that the book was written and you set it aside because it was tough on you, especially during the pandemic. And I think so this was completed during the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So why did you say that? Did you get over involved with the stories?
See, what happened was that partition is such a big topic and I had so much to say.
Yeah.
ये book ना 15 different direction में चली गई थी.
Wow.
And
so this is the nth version of the book we are reading.
Yeah, man. At one point it was 2 lakh words.
2 lakh.
One point was 2 lakh words.
Wow.
Final thing is 80,000 words, but तो 2 lakh words से मैं कुछ 20,000 word पे आया. I deleted 1,80,000 words.
Wow.
Then when I realized कि अच्छा ये 15 direction में जा रही है, but ये वाली एक particular direction जो है, that is the point of the book. That's what the main story is.
But Sachin, this is so good because they say that like over a period of 5-6 years, I have talked to a lot of authors, and many of the accomplished ones, they say that कोई बात नहीं, second, third draft के बाद delete कर दो, कोई बात नहीं है, it's fine. If it is not working, just delete it, rather than release a half-cooked sort of version which you are not satisfied with.
ये मैं थोड़ा ओवरडू कर देता हूँ. मैं देखो 2 second, third draft तक ठीक है, पर जब 17-18वां draft आ जाता है ना, तो आपको लगता है कहीं मैं पागल तो नहीं हो रहा हूँ, क्या हो रहा है?
Right. So that the process of kind of, deleting and, again writing got to you.
हाँ, मतलब दुनिया से थोड़ा इतना भी दूर नहीं चला जाना चाहिए कि आप
Yeah.
17वें ड्राफ्ट तक चले जाओ. So it's not healthy, but
Yeah.
I think 2020 gave us a lot of silence, a lot
Yeah.
of quiet.
Yeah.
दुनिया में noise ही खत्म हो गया.
Right. True.
And like fortunately or unfortunately, my other businesses and work
Yeah.
also came to a standstill, so I could just focus
Right.
and mute everything else and just focus on this book and finish it.
What's happening with Grapevine now? Because a lot of people, I'm sure, would want to ask this, because iska bhi evolution hua hai. And this is my final question before we, kind of go away. बहुत लोगों के सवाल है, मेरे ही हैं वैसे तो ज्यादातर सवाल कि ग्रेपवाइन का हो क्या रहा है,
Grapevine
started with a bang, huge bang.
Yeah. Grapevine is mostly dormant, just publishing my books for now.
Okay.
So I think we've not signed an author for like 3-4 years now.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're kind of dormant. We had great first few years.
Yeah.
Then we struggled for a few years.
Yeah.
And because we struggled, we kind of had to evolve and figure out a business model which will work for us.
Yeah.
Right now we are kind of like in a balanced state. Yeah. Dormant balanced state.
Right.
And it works for me as an author and a publisher as well, because then I get like 100% control over it.
I know.
It has some downsides as well. Like you will not find my books in Crossword or big bookstores.
True.
In fact, most bookstores near your house.
True.
But then I get control, so it kind of works for me. I control timelines creatively. I control everything, which is very important for me.
Right. But I mean, the follow-up question to that would be, how do you see the future of publishing? Because I have talked to the traditional walas also. I've talked to self-publishers also. I mean, they have answers, but nobody has got it figured out yet. I just got the feeling.
See, traditionally, the big companies will do well because they have enough clout to acquire people who are assured of selling. Yeah. So they're kind of gatekeepers. So they have the power to sign only those people who will do numbers.
Right.
For a guy, so like when I started, I was just an engineering student, actually, not even graduate, engineering student in some far corner of North Delhi with no connections, and I just sent and I got published. Yeah. I don't think that can happen now. Right. The least you need is maybe Twitter following or Instagram following, or some kind of USP you need, or know somebody, or be famous for something. Yeah. So I think that,
I've been noticing that, and that kind of, worries me a little bit, but okay, I understand the balance
you could be the best writer in India, but if you don't know anybody, trust me, it is difficult to get a foot in. Oh, yeah. Maybe a literary agent route might work for some, but you will still have to be a little, especially for fiction, you'll have to be a little lucky for that to work.
Great. So, okay, guys, pick this book up, Hindu Refugee Camp, Lahore. A lot of research has gone into it. Just like the previous book, We Need a Revolution, that was also research based, if I'm not wrong. And it was about the Andamans. Pick them up together, you'll figure out. And if you are really getting adventurous, pick up the earlier books, And the one with the green cover, which one was it, Sachin?
When Opposites Meet.
Where Opposites Meet. So तीनों साथ में खरीद लेना Amazon पे. Go to Sachin's handle, tell him about the book, your feedback, good, bad, whatever, ugly, whatever, just share it. Okay, it gives a chance to the author to kind of revisit the writing. And if I can take the liberty, I'm sure Sachin is very open about critical feedback also. So
I'm very approachable on Instagram. Just DM me on Instagram.
Awesome. And give a like on his memes also. I mean, you have to.
That you will anyway.
Yes.
वो बोलने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती है, वो आ जाते हैं.
Anyway, so thank you so much, Sachin. It was great talking to you. And this book is top notch, to be honest. Not saying it because, I mean, मतलब वैसे तो सामने तो कोई ऐसा बोलता नहीं है, but it is top notch because it is heartfelt. That's what I loved, and the format is, you can read it quickly. that's another, positive. So I just got through it like within like 1 odd day. So it was pretty fast, and loved it. Looking forward to so much more. And of course, best of luck for this one.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rohan.
Yeah. See you
Okay.
soon.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah. Bye.